Hello everyone, this is Abby Sylvia, a student from the Center for Cybersecurity and Cryptology in the University of Bamenda, and today we'll be talking about identity access management. In order for us to attain our objectives of today, we are going to go deeper into identifying some tools that we'll be needing to carry out this activity. So what we'll be needing, we'll need some Linux distribution, Ubuntu, C Linux, Arma Linux, Workshark, IP tables, etc. So we can have other tools that we might need along the explanation as we go. So we shall be learning about the different tasks according to the different directives which I'm going to give you today. In the first place, we are going to act as system administrators, or we are going to act as cyber security agents in our organizations. In order for us to carry out this task successfully, we need to put ourselves into this position so that we work according to the rules of this position and how to secure the activities of our organization, or as cyber security agents, to be able to secure the information that we have been employed to take charge of. So we shall be beginning our program with seeing how to create accounts. That means when a user is put in an organization, we create an account for that user, not just to create a user account, to assign a particular password that will give access to that user in order to carry out activities in that organization. After doing that, we are also going to learn how to edit a particular user. We can edit a user and by giving or assigning to that user certain privileges, since we know that in organizations, users will always vary. They will not have the same capability, the same task, so their privileges will always be different. So we'll be looking at how to assign privileges to particular users working in an organization. We are also going to see how to carry out activities like setting the timer in order to ensure security. So in our task, we'll divide this task into different steps, and I'll just call on you to follow the steps as I give you the directives, so that we'll be doing the work simultaneously. So we are going to begin with the first task, which involves creating our user and assigning passwords to our user. So like I said before, we are going to be needing some tools, and here after opening our virtual machine, we'll open the Alma Linux here, which is one of the tools, the main tools that we said we'll be needing to carry out this task, especially the first task which we have, creating the user. So make sure you've opened your Alma Linux. While it loads, we are going to continue with the next task. Alright, so our virtual machine is already open, and now we are going to go directly to the terminal. When we open the terminal, we are going to create the three users. We are going to create three users. We can create as many users as we want, but in this case we are going to create three users. I will give them the names Lionel, Kathleen, and Maggie. So I'm going to give you the procedure how to create the user and assign particular passwords to these users. Remember, we said a user cannot have access to the system without the password. The password gives you that access into a particular system. So here we are going to follow this procedure: sudo We type on our terminal sudo user add, sudo user add, and then we give the first username Lionel, and we can go straight away by assigning. Here we'll be required to input our password, which I have just inputted mine. We can go straight away by assigning a password to Lionel, or we can still create all the users and we assign them passwords differently. So in this case, let's just use the password command to assign the password to Lionel. So we are going to use again sudo passwd, and we're assigning that password to the user Lionel. We need to specify, and we'll be required here to input a password. In my case, I always love to use the username and I attach some numbers there to quickly remember, which I've just inputted Lionel with some numbers, and I'm required to do it the second time for authentication, which I have just done. And here we realize that uh, the password needs to be successful. They need to indicate that it is successful. So we are going to redo it again. We have sudo passwd Lionel. We are creating his password. I'm using Lionel 12 and requested to do it again. I've done it. And in this case, we have been given a notification. It has been done successfully. So what you're going to do now is to use the same procedure that we use in creating Lionel to create the other users. Remember, we are talking about Kathleen and Maggie. So I'm not going to give the procedure again. You just do it uh, quietly while I do mine. We add the users. And don't forget to assign their passwords. And the other users are already added. So now, another thing we should be allowed to do, we have created the 3 users. I'm sure by now you should have created all your users. Another thing which will be allowed to do is to edit the user, and we can edit the user using the vsudo command. So here I'm going to type sudo vsudo. Because of the delayance, we are requested to put in the password again. Requested to put in the password, and so we just continue sudo vsudo. Make sure whatever you are inputting is done correctly in order not to receive. We press enter. This is the terminal which gives us the ability to edit the user. When we edit our users, we give them particular privileges. We assign them particular privileges. And so in this case, we are going to move directly to the storage command and we remove the hashtag found in front of the storage command. This is the hashtag. So we remove the hashtag here. And remember, as a super user, you have the ability to assign privileges to particular users. So after doing this, in order for us to edit the user, we include the insert, and we are able now to remove this. When we remove the hashtag, we realize that you can also add or reduce the privilege of a particular user based on what you want to assign to the user. So from here, you are able to see what the user can do. In this case, we have 2 users already and they've been given that super privilege. So we can also assign, for example, Lionel, that's one of our users. We can also give them a super user privilege by assigning to them to or to him again the same privilege which we gave to the other users, and we'll do that by editing the user. So you are giving him a particular privilege, and you're giving him the ability to be able to perform everything that a super user will carry out using this system. So he has all permission. When you do this, we are going to save and exit this page by pressing the escape button, colon, and WQ to exit the page. So after we have created the user, we have edited the user and assigned particular privileges to the user, we can conclude here that Lionel can run commands because he is a super user. He has the ability to act like an administrator in that particular organization. And we can test for all the other users that we have created to see their levels of privileges which they have. So hoping that that first part is understood, we are now going to move to the next part, which is adding and managing a timer. A timer is the interval that we have from the time we input our password to the time it becomes deactivated, requesting us to put in the password again. And we realize that when using a timer, it is more secure when we have a timer at 0. By default, these Linux distributions give us timer at 5 minutes. That means within 5 minutes your password remains active, and after 5 minutes you need to input the password again in order to have access into the system. This is very dangerous in security because within 5 minutes somebody can have access into that system and perform things that you as a super user are able to perform. So here we want to limit the privileges, and the first thing which we are going to do is to reduce the timer. We want to reduce our timer to 0. That means whenever you're entering into the system, you have to input the password of that user, so you will not depend on the default timer of 5 minutes in order to do that. So we are going to go back to our terminal, and in this our terminal we are going to continue with the AMA Linux, and let us now log in. We are logging in to the, we assume our system is already logged in, and now we type again the sudo system control status. Remember, the system control status helps us to see the status of that user. Before that, we will now type the sudo. We are talking about timer. Because of my talking time, the default time has gone off, so I will need to input the password again in order to have access into this account. And now we will type on our terminal sudo fdisk fdisk and hyphen l, give a space, and we type l. Here we are requested to put in the password, which I'm going to put mine, so you put yours. Then we are now going to see type sudo system control status ctl control status and sshd. We press enter, and let's just take all the codes before we have the explanation. Sudo ip tables hyphen and a capital L. We press enter. When we do this, we realize that we have the ability now to set the timer according to how we want. So we have the ability to edit and set the timer. By default, we have a timer of 5 minutes. So we will still continue by typing the sudo fdisk hyphen, give a space, hyphen l, enter, and sudo k, there is a hyphen before k, that's the sudo f disk hyphen a lower l. When this is done, we are requested to put in the password again, and with this you can be able to edit the timer. So now we shall use the sudo vsudo command to enter our password, and when we enter the password, we are going to type default specification and we will add the command default timestamp. So now we'll open the vsudo sudo vsudo sudo vsudo command. It's open, and we'll go to where we have the default. We'll need to insert the default timestamp, and we'll put it at 0, in such a way that the user has a 0 timer. There will be no interval into the system. So we'll just edit and we put it at 0. So we are going to come to the default type, the default specifications here, and we'll type on it default timestamp, default timestamps, and underscore default timestamp underscore timeout equal to 0. So we have set here our timer to 0, and after setting our timer to 0, this works for all the users whom we have created in this system. And but we can still go to particular users. That means we go to we open the particular users and we set their default times out to the number of times or to the minutes that we want. But remember, we talked about 0 is more secured, because you will need to, when an intruder gets into the system, he will not just have access to the 5 minutes or take advantage of the 5 minutes default time, but he will need to put in a password, which if he does not know, he will not be able to have access into the system. So after doing this, we can just save, and we save and exit that particular activity. I'm sure you are able to carry out this same task as given. So after doing this, we have already set the timer to 0, so we are sure of security. We are going to follow the steps and do it for the other users, like I said. So, and at the end of it, you can still use the pass the sudo command L to check the status again, or to view your own status with regards to the timer. You can check with regards to the timer. Here we see a 0, so we can, there is no, your own status shows that your own default timer is at 0. So, and like we said at the beginning of this presentation, we'll be using different tools, and now we are going to dash into a different tool, which is Ubuntu. One of the Linux distribution, we use Ubuntu, and we are going to use this Ubuntu maybe in our machines or in our virtual machines to create an encrypted home directory with the add user. Now we are using the add user. So in the comment section, I would like you to explain a little the difference between the user add command and the add user command. So we are now going to launch Ubuntu in our virtual machine here. We'll launch Ubuntu, and when it is open, we'll perform the task as we will be instructed to do. So just follow as we launch. So in our work, we have seen how to create our users, how to assign particular password to users. We have also seen how to assign to edit the users by giving them particular privileges that they will need based on their role in our organization. And we have also seen all this we have done using Alma Linux. We have also carried out activities reducing the timer in order to ensure security. So to conclude, we shall be saying that this exercise is very, very important, especially for system administrators and cybersecurity agents who are in charge of securing the data in an organization. All this knowledge is basic knowledge is needed in order to carry out their task successfully to secure the data. We have been talking about identity access management. So therefore, in an organization, for you to have access in the affairs of that organization, they should be able to identify you, and you can easily identify through your user account, and you have access from the password which is being assigned to you. And generally, the administrator and the cybersecurity agent has the role of managing who enters, who leaves the organization, what activity you use your account to carry out in that organization. By so doing, you'll be able to secure the data of that particular organization. So in our next presentations, if there is any problem, we are going to solve them, and we are also going to learn other things that may concern us when carrying out identity access management. Thank you.